Yeah. That process that you saw, it's not before picture. I'm just clarifying it again. Interest factor of your game. That's the area where I would pitch a game to a publisher or to my boss, whoever it is. Because if you are in a Rolicule kind of a studio, okay, I'll take the permission of the studio manager like Rohit to just get that interest factor proved in a prototype, then I'll pitch it off. So the moment when I get the answer for the first one itself, I'll pitch it. That's more for me the whole entire process of till you ship the game. Okay? Next questions, guys. I know you guys went for lunch and it's gone off, but still you can ask questions. No problem with that.
When you said core mechanics, what did you define as core mechanics? More of how the user actually interacts with the game, or what he actually does inside the game?
It's interactivity.
So on the surface level.
Yeah, it's interactivity. See, for me, core mechanics, if I'm defining it for my teams, it's very simple. How much of control your user has in your game to feel him comfortable. Okay? If it is a mobile device, your touch screen is his hand. Whatever he is doing over there, that is doing whatever it should be doing inside the environment. So my core mechanic is always that. User, what he can do, how to do it inside your game. That's the core mechanic. But what objectives he has to do, that comes in the game loop. Because that always has a success and a failure condition. Correct? Core mechanic doesn't have a success and failure condition. Huh? It's like one tap happens and immediately a feedback says, oh, I accepted your tap. That means the tap feedback came in. It's immediate. It's not that you have something that is a long term or a short term, nothing of that sort. So for me, core mechanic is something that immediately the response comes back, but it helps the user in controlling your environment or do the interactions needed. So it's majorly interactions.
So in a mobile device, we usually use swipe and kind of. So those are primarily our control, right?
Yeah.
So those are the things that summarize of core mechanics.
Yes.
What about different control?
Joysticks are there. You have the shoulder button.
So do joysticks impact your core mechanic?
Yes. Yes. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. See, I wouldn't classify core mechanics as only controls. I'll say core mechanics is exactly how the user is feeling while he's controlling, right? So, in a way, you can say that the character is moving when the joystick moves. That is also a part of core mechanic. The camera that is attached to it whenever it is moving, that is also a part of core mechanic. Correct? So, whatever makes the user comfortable in looking, it happens. Say for example, first person shooter you're trying to do, when you're doing the joystick, the views move. That means the user is looking. What if the camera is slow? User wanted to look at it quickly, but it is like, goes back. So there your core mechanic breaks. The user is not able to control it the way he wants. So anything that is related to user's interaction, to interact with your environment, I put it in the core mechanics part. And that's what I wouldn't change at all. In a first person shooter, unless and until it's an exotic sequence, I don't change the camera tilt values at all. Throughout the game it's the same, right? Unless you are sprinting, which is an ability to go faster, the speed by which I walk or the speed by which I run is always consistent throughout the game. So for me, those are the key elements of core mechanics. But core mechanics doesn't mean it's only control. Sometimes camera attaches to it. Sometimes it would be a feedback. Say for example, if it is a simulation game, cameras are there, that is true. But sometimes dragging and dropping is also a core mechanic. Because you have, in a simulation game, tons of buildings to drag and drop. So every time he's dragging and dropping and then modifying its locations. So that is also a core mechanic. So it's morely, I can only define it as interaction with the environment by the gamer. Okay. But it varies from game to game. And it's your responsibility as a developer to understand what is a core mechanic and secure that first before going further. Because at one point when you try to build a lot of things, right, you know there is an issue with the game, you wouldn't understand where it is coming from. Is it the challenges are not good enough, or is it the mechanic breaking, is it the camera, you won't know anything. So this is more of It's like debugging itself, but understanding exactly what you're placing and how you're building the game. So core, then the next, then the next, then the next, and then making sure that it's in a good shape.
So again, any of the content from the game will be hard or
Like, could you give me an example? Then I told you.
It's about interaction. Creating like Assassin's Creed, I usually use a controller. I interact with the character, I usually interact.
Yeah.
There's missions and what he has to do, objectives. Do they affect the core mechanic? Are they a part of the
No, they are not a part of the core mechanic.
So, what if in Assassin's Creed game you usually bring parkour all the time?
Yes.
So, even that doesn't count.
No. See, parkour movements, going fast, going stealth, going slow, climbing, holding, when you are on a sledge, just moving to the side, he shows that if there is an object to climb, he'll show it. Otherwise, he doesn't show it. That's the character part of the core mechanic itself. Character animation part. He doesn't show that. It's a signs and feedback saying that I can go that side on this side. If they show the hand, yes, there is something to hold. Otherwise, no. Right? That systems doesn't have any objective. It's how you are interacting with that world completely. Correct? Even in Uncharted also the same thing is there. Whenever he is climbing, the hand shows or he's ready to jump, he just shows like that because it's ready to do it. But those stuffs don't change. It's always the same throughout the game. Even the speed of it doesn't change. It's the same thing. So those kind of interactions is coming under the core mechanic. But assassinate or kill this much, those all come in your game loop variations.
In case of game loop, more of game content would come.
Yes. That's what I said. We can't ship a game with only the core mechanic. It would be dead, zero, nothing is there. Okay. Game mechanic, if you do that alone, internally we use a name for it. It's a toy. You know those cat has those ribbon balls, they just tap like this. That's for us. It's just a toy. If you make only the mechanic, it's just a toy. You can't give the end user with that. So until you wrap it with a game loop, it's not yet a game, but I wouldn't say it is yet a game, but still, it's a valuable game proposition. Okay. When you start bringing all those visual fidelity into it and have a huge progression, because at the end of the day, you give this entertainment product to any of the gamer, right? There is only one thing that they want. They take a risk, they should be rewarded. They would be motivated for the next step. If the next step is the same as the previous one as a repetition, he'll say, this is just repeating. I don't want to do it. I already did it. So you need to up the difficulty and give them a more variation to it so that they'll play it again and say, okay, fine. But we can't change the core mechanics. Then suddenly they'll say, you didn't even teach me what is this. Right? So it's tricky to balance it out. Okay. But without the gameplay loop, your game isn't there. You can't call it a game. You can only call it as a toy. And once the game is put in, then it's still not a video game which can be shipped. You need to have a progression so that it's a product fully. When the progression is put in, then you can say that it's a game.